Hey everyone, Board Game Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a new copy of Zapotec. It's a fast-playing Eurogame with complex decision-making published by Board and Dice. And as you can see, I love Board and Dice games. So let's see how this one stacks up with the others. Each player starts with their own player board that lists the cost to build each type of building in the game. A cornfield costs 1 wood and 1 stone, a village costs 1 wood and 1 brick, and a temple costs 1 stone and 1 brick. And lastly, the palace, which costs 1 wood, 1 brick, and 1 stone. And the palace can only be built once, and has a special ability that goes with it, but I will cover that here in a bit. This part here is the income grid. When you build a certain building, you will place one of your houses out on the spot on the board. You will take the tile from that place and place it on your income board. Each of these tiles will allow you to gain 1 basic resource and 1 advanced resource. There are 3 basic resources in the game: brick, wood, and stone, and 3 advanced resources: corn, priest, and gold. Players have 6 pyramid pieces that will be used to be built on these pyramid spots on the main board. Everyone starts with 1 of each basic resource and 3 discs by their player board for the ritual action, and 1 is placed on the sacrifice track and another one to keep score. Lastly, each player starts with a random number of action cards depending on the number of players playing in the game. The board has 3 regions, each with a statue representing that region. Each region has 3 sections, all with different terrain. Plains, this dark brown here, hills in the middle gray, and the forest, which is this green. Then the tiles are placed within each of these terrains and regions, matching the icons that are printed out on the board. Trade tiles are shuffled and 3 of each level are placed out face up. Some of these tiles are one-time use tiles and some are once per round tiles, while others are special action tiles. There are 9 scoring tiles which are randomly drawn to be used with scoring the pyramids. Depending on the number of players in the game, a number is drawn and the remaining are not used for the rest of the game. Action cards are all shuffled. 1 is placed out on the main board to start. That will be the scoring for that first round. And the offer row is made by placing the card equal to the number of players plus 1. 4 cards are placed face down, used for the remaining 4 rounds, 1 per round. This here is the ritual cards. 3 are randomly drawn each game. So now let's get into actually playing this game. All players will take their action cards and choose 1 to use for each round. There is only 5 rounds in the game, so only 5 cards will be used. The game starts a little slower but grows from round to round, but also the intensity and the impact of what you do in a round is now that much more important because you only have 5 of them. So everyone picks one of their cards to play. All players reveal their card and compare the number printed on the bottom of that card. The player with the lowest number will be the first in turn order for that round, and then the second lowest will go next, and so on. On these cards, you now know that the number on the bottom determines the player order. The top resource will determine which row or column in your income grid that you can activate, and the middle shows a property, either a type of building, a type of terrain, or a region. And that round you can only build matching that property. So if it shows a type of building, that's the only type of building that you can build. But you can build it anywhere on the board. If it's a region, you can build any building, but only in that one region. And if it's a terrain type, then you can build any building in any region, but only if it matches that terrain type. So after determining player order for the round, on a turn, a player will first do income. They will pick a row or a column, just 1, that matches the resource listed on the top of their card. On the first round of the game, no tiles are here, so the income will just be the 1 indicated type. But later in the game, tiles will be filled up, and you will strategically choose a row or a column to activate, collecting all the resources listed on those tiles, plus the 1 listed on its own. This is very important in the game, so planning on how you can be more efficient and gain the most resources as possible while also doing what you want to do on the board according to your goals is key to doing well in this game. After you do income, you will do capital actions. And this will be skipped in the first round of the game, but will be important for the second round and on. There are 4 types of capital actions that you can perform. You can do one, or you can do all of them if you have the resources or the requirements fulfilled to do them. Let me go over them. First, the trade action. Here, players can pay 1, 2, or 3 gold to gain a bonus tile. The tiles that cost 1 gold give immediate resources which can be used on that same turn to do something important. The tiles that cost 2 gold can be used each round to convert one type of resource to others. This would be good if you make more of a certain type and you need some of the other resources. The tiles that cost 3 gold are more powerful, and these can either be immediate or some are once per round actions, while others might be a permanent ability. A player can only buy 1 tile from each row per round. Tiles are then refilled after each player's turn. Next is the pyramid action. This costs 1 priest, 1 wood, 1 brick, and 1 stone. And this enables that player to build a level of a pyramid. The player will select either an empty pyramid space or an unfinished pyramid that already has 1 or 2 levels on it already. If you build on an empty space, you have to start with the largest pyramid piece on your board. This would be the biggest one at the beginning of the game. But if you started a new pyramid later in the game and you didn't have that large piece anymore, then you would put the middle piece down to start. You then choose one of the available scoring tiles to match with it. This tile will score 1 point for each type you have on the board for each section of the pyramid that you have. So it will be a way to get points in the game. Also, if the pyramid gets finished, in addition to scoring 1 point per piece matching the scoring tile, it will also score 5 points per piece to the player who placed it. Strategically, if you place a scoring tile that no one else is working on, then you will most likely be trying to build that pyramid all on your own. But if you choose a scoring tile that another player can get some points from by placing one of their pyramid pieces on it, then you both can get extra points by finishing the pyramid more easily to score the 5 points per piece plus the scoring from the tile. The player building their own pyramid might never get their pyramid finished to get those extra 5 points per pyramid piece. If you don't want to start a new pyramid, then you can instead spend the same to contribute to another existing non-complete pyramid. A pyramid is completed if you can no longer place any other pieces on it. This means if you use your pieces, it is possible to start a pyramid with the top piece and complete it without needing to do anything else. But what you really need to know that is if you finish a pyramid, then it's 5 points to each piece a player contribute to it. And then completed or not, you will score 1 point per building matching the scoring tile. You can only build 1 level of the same pyramid per round, but within the same round, a player can contribute to 2 different pyramids. Continuing on now with the capital actions, we now have the ritual action. To do this, you need to have built at least 1 pyramid piece. A player will spend 1 priest and then place one of their discs on one chosen ritual card on the display. You can only place 1 disc per card. If any opponent already has their disc on a card, then you can still place yours on there, but it will cost you 1 gold per disc of any other player already on there. So you're encouraged to claim these earlier in the game rather than later. The number of pieces that you can place is limited to the number of pyramid pieces that you have placed to 3, because there's only 3 cards. These cards are in-game scoring conditions, so you will only want to invest in placing out discs on them if you can score the points from what's listed on them. But this can add to your planning, because if you can overlap going after one of these cards with something else that scores points, it will let you become more efficient with your limited turns in this game. The last capital action is the sacrifice action. A player will spend 1 priest and between 1 to 5 corn to move up that many spaces on that track, gaining all bonuses listed on each step. This track uses resources, but can also be used to gain a resource you really need. You will also slowly gain points and also gain perks to pay for trade tiles at a cheaper price. second row tiles for 1 gold instead of 2, and then bottom row 3 gold tiles for the cost of 1 gold. Yes, this can really help you. The player at the end of the game who is highest on the track also scores 9 points. The second place player will score 6 points, and the third place player will score 3 points. Again, these capital actions won't be done in round 1, but they are important actions in the game to get points in the game and do well. So starting again, you do income, you gain resources, do any capital actions that you would like. Then next is the construction step, where you can spend your basic resources to build any number of buildings, but within the restriction of your action card. Again, a type of building is any of that type anywhere on the board. A region is any building within that region. And if it's that terrain type, then you can build anywhere within that terrain on the board. When constructing, again, you will pay the resources, you will take the tile on that spot, you'll place one of your houses on that spot, that tile will go onto your income track, but you need to strategically place it so that you can benefit from it for next round. So place it in a row or a column that you will most likely activate next round. Look at your hand of cards and see what you have. Remember, the top resource lists which row or column that you can activate. Keep on building if you can or want to. The more you build, especially at the beginning of the game, the more resources you can gain next round to do more. Remember the palace I mentioned earlier? Well, this can only be built once in the entire game. It won't help give you resources because the tile is not placed on your income grid, but it is placed here on your board. But it counts as 2 houses for all scoring purposes. So be strategic to take the most advantage of it as you can. You most likely will do this later in the game because building up your income grid is very important at the beginning of your game. After construction, you will score points according to the card that is out on the board. Again, you probably want to pay attention to what scores each round before selecting a card to play. Overlapping as much as you can by building a house for 2 scoring reasons is amazing in this game. But each round you can score 2 points for each house that meets that scoring card's requirements. The last step of a turn is choosing one of the face-up action cards to add to your hand. So going first will give you first choice of these cards, which can possibly be important, but also there is 1 card more than the number of players. After the last player chooses a card, the last card left out becomes the new scoring condition for the next round. All action cards that were played in the past round are then placed out in the offer spot, and the top card in that small deck is then added to it. So again, there is 1 more card than the number of players. After doing this 5 times, the game ends. Players will gain points from the sacrifice track. Again, the player that gets the furthest gets 9 points, second furthest gets 6, and the third furthest gets 3. Players score points for ritual cards that they have discs on and that they fulfilled. Pyramid score, again, 5 points per piece if that pyramid is finished, 1 point per piece according to its scoring tile placed in front of it. The winner is the player then with the most points. So you might be thinking, wow, sounds awesome, which it is awesome, but after actually playing it, you will most likely be thinking, man, I wish I had another turn. 5 turns is not a lot, and the first turn is just starting things off. Rounds 2 through 5 get more complex, but they're all important, and because of that, a small mistake, even just on the first round, can really cost you. This is a game where you will need to learn things on the first couple times that you play, and then after everyone knows the game a bit, you can really play and get super strategic in it. The game is pretty simple in its rules, but man, those decisions are hard to make, and they can make or break when playing with experienced players. They can make or break you. But the other thing that I found is there is no one way that tends to be better than another. You can perform those 4 big capital actions differently each time that you play. The resource management in the game tends to be tight, so getting certain tiles that produce the resources that you actually want and placing them in a row or a column that produces other resources is really smart to do in this game. You don't want to get stuck activating your income to just gain one type of resource, although there are ways to figure out a solution to that. But you want to start to strategically plan your income grid as well, and getting more resources is good. But getting the resource that you actually need is even better. Don't forget about the palace, as it will count as 2 houses and can be overlapped with different scoring actions as well. Also remember the cards that score each round and gain small points here and there. You need to pay attention to those. Now, I know I've listed a lot of important things, but one of the more important things that you need to realize that you can enjoy this game is not taking a bad first turn. If you do, you probably will decide not to like the game. So you should know that placing your tile in a row or a column that you will be activating next round is what you need to do. Also, on the first turn, you will gain 1 resource for your income, which you will need to plan, because you start with 3 others. That's 4 basic resources, and those 4 should be used to build twice. Then those 2 tiles should be placed on your grid, and you should plan to activate those in the next round. But really, you want to think about the ritual cards, the card that will score for that round, and your income track, all these things at the same time. As the game goes on, you will think less about your income grid and more about pyramids and the sacrifice track. The sacrifice track and trade tiles are there to help you be more flexible in the game, so take advantage of those actions. And when you can, you should progress through those when necessary. Ultimately, it's a nice Euro that can be played fairly quickly. It's easy to teach, but the decisions are so important, and the game is not forgiving. If you have one bad turn, it might do you in. So build temples, villages, and cornfields with your family and friends in Zapotec by Board and Dice.
Again, this is Board Game Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.